And this promises to be a knowledge-packed show and an exciting one over the next 1 hour. I'm Ekene, and with me in the studio is
Stephanie, and it's another beautiful Tuesday evening, and we hope that you are there joining us to have yourself filled with knowledge that would impact on you this evening. And thanks for joining in.
As usual today on your favorite talk show, our health talk show, we're going to bring a topic of utmost importance to our society. It's a common thing that we talk about when people are about to get married.
Of course, you know.
And it's also sometimes of importance generally because it doesn't affect only the parents, it also goes beyond
generations
to come. So today we'll be talking about blood group and genotype compatibility. For the married folks out there, it sounds very familiar.
Of course, yes. And even for those who are upcoming, I'm sure they've been hearing about it, okay? You know, what's a genotype? I know some relationships have broken because of that same issue.
Yes.
What's your genotype, you know? And some people feel cheated. Like, why did you create me with kind of genotype?
I mean, some people claim to have the premium genotype.
Yeah, you know, they are full about it, okay? So that's what today is about, the genotype and blood group compatibility.
And today we are going to talk extensively about it because it's very important that we know. Because, I mean, in this case, ignorance is not bliss because it brings about a ripple effect and suffering along the line.
Of course it does. You know it does. People are just, a lot of people feel, in the past days, you know, things happen and people don't know why they happen.
Exactly.
And they just say, oh, okay, it's the gods that have taken them again. And then village people come again. You have the second one and village people come again. You know, so it's, some people even attribute it to banjo or something, you know, but they don't know that these are one or two of the causes that could have led to this kind of thing. Yeah. So today we'll be joined in the studio. We are already joined in the studio by a friend of the house. He's a medical doctor, a GP with the Federal Staff Hospital Gwarimpa, and he's here in person of Dr. Paul Mwali. Dr. Paul, please, can we meet you?
All right, I'm Dr. Paul Mwali, general practitioner with Federal Staff Hospital Gwarimpa. I'm glad to be here. It's a topic that I've come across a lot in my practice. A lot of people have actually come due to this, so it's something I'm really glad to speak about today.
I'm really sure he's very passionate about it because immediately I said, okay, what topic? And he said, no. You see that blood group and genotype, it has become a thing of concern. And we said, yes, okay, probably we want to bring it to the people. And thanks for tuning in, people. It's Radio Maria 91.3 FM. 30 minutes into the show, we'll open our phone lines for you to call, SMS, and send your WhatsApp. And please, it's also streaming live on YouTube. So you can also check your YouTube channel, LJU Radio Maria 91.3 FM. The phone lines again remain 081 084 475 18. 081 084 475 18. Want to enjoin you, our constant listeners who always call in, to please stay tuned to the program. We'll be right back. Maria 91.3 FM, the voice of truth. The program still remains Healthier You. It's another beautiful Tuesday evening, and today we have decided to bring a topic that has become of utmost importance to our people. And the topic we're discussing for today is blood group and genotype compatibility. Now we have in the studio with us our friend Dr. Paul Wani, who is a general practitioner, a medical doctor with Federal Staff Hospital Gwarimpa. And in a very short while, we'll delve right into the topic and bring it to your...
So don't forget that in the next 20-25 minutes, thereabout, the phone lines will be open, and the phone number again is 081-084-47518. I'll take that again, 081-084-47518. You can call, you can send your SMSs, you can also send your WhatsApp messages. We'll be expecting to hear from you. So Dr. Wani, should we get to it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So as I said earlier, the topic for the day is blood group and genotype compatibility. So before we get deep into what all of that is about, let's talk about the blood. What is, I mean, we all know it's the red thing that flows through our body, but what is the blood and what's it made up of? Yeah.
Okay. So I'll just try to use it in layman terms so people can basically follow.
Yeah, sure,
what
that'll
I'm
be a
saying.
good one.
So blood is basically fluid, okay, that flows through the body. Now, basically what it does is it carries oxygen and nutrients to different parts of the body, just to enrich all the different organs and tissues of the body so that your body can function properly, basically. So that's what blood is, basically. So blood is basically made up of 4 components, but it's divided into 2.
Okay.
The liquid part, or the fluid part, what people see, but in that there's still what we call the cellular components. Okay, that's those ones you can't see except if you go use a microscope. So now the cellular components are 3 in number. We have the red blood cells, the white blood cells, and the platelets. While the liquid component is called the plasma. So that's basically what blood is composed of.
Okay. So what function does it serve in the human body?
Okay, so they all have their different functions.
Okay.
And so I'll just go through them one after the other. So red blood cell makes up about 40 to 45% of the blood. Now it's basically what is responsible for carrying oxygen, okay, from the lungs. When the blood is oxygenated in the lungs, it takes it to different parts of the body. When it gets to where it needs to drop it off, it takes carbon dioxide back to the lungs, which now the lungs now takes it out of the body where you exhale. So basically that's what the red blood cells do. Now the white blood cells are basically responsible for I call them the defenders.
Yeah.
So they are the ones that so basically, so they play a very, very key role. So it's the reason why you're able to combat some of these things. People tell you, oh, I've never fallen sick in terms of size. They are the smallest. But they are responsible for helping you control bleeding. Yeah. So for example, if you have a clot, yes, exactly. So blood clotting, you have a trying to stop the bleeding. So that's where the platelets come. So the body just sends those platelets to wherever the bleeding is occurring, sugars. So these ones are just what, as the body is carrying out function properly. So that's basically what those components of the blood do.
So again, we're coming back to the fact that you see how important the blood is and how important nutrition is. Because blood being in the body, it's what generally takes over your mechanism. But supplies the nutrients, does everything to each part of the body. So we're basically coming back to the fact that for those who don't like, okay, I don't want to eat and all that become anemic and because of sickness and all that, we're also emphasizing the effect of short blood, like anemia, you see. So it's very important that we are well fed so that our blood too will be rich. You understand what I mean?
So let's talk about the first part of the topic for today, which is the blood group. So basically, I mean, the layman's understanding is that there are groupings when it comes to the blood. So what's this classification based on?
Okay, now blood group generally is based on it's based on inheritance. Let me just use the word inheritance. The child gets it from the parents. Yeah. Okay, now this inheritance is based on there are certain what we call proteins on these cells, which determine what each one is and what it's composed of. So, for example, let me just give an example now, just ahead of time. Someone that says, okay, my blood group is A. It means that on that person's red blood cell, there's an A antigen. Antigen is a protein.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what determines that person is blood group A. You get what I'm trying to say? So that's what it is. So it's based on inheritance from your parents. So blood group doesn't it wasn't be exact, like, okay, if both your parents are this, you must have this. Sometimes it changes a bit in certain ways, but I don't want to go into that.
I think I could buttress a little bit into what Dr. Paul just said. We could trace it back to, we have the dominant and the recessive.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you go to the clinic and they're like, okay, no, it's not my blood group, it's not my, oh yeah, DNA test. These things could be possible because of, like, for instance, you could have an AB and then the other child is coming up with an O. It's very, very common with those two blood groups. AB, and then you have the child coming up with an O. And then the father is like, never. It's normal. Nobody in my family is O. But these things are possible because we have this recessive and dominant, and then before you know, with time it gets to evolve, and then that child you think is just a direct offspring also gets to get that of the indirect of generation. So we have these discrepancies at times.
So, Doctor, please, let's so that everyone will be on the same page, even our listeners. When we say recessive and dominant, what do we mean exactly?
Okay. So, in terms of inheritance, so there's usually is genetics now.
Yeah.
There's the dominant gene and there's the recessive gene. Now, the recessive gene might not. Okay, for example, you see a child is born and they say, "Ah, this is having papa." You get. It means that the father's genes are the dominant one, so that's why the child
more
looks
pronounced
one.
Phenotype like of the dad is more pronounced.
Than the child.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean the child doesn't have the mom's
this thing.
DNA too.
You understand?
But
So that same man can now go ahead in the future. That same child who carries the recess of the mother can go ahead in the future, and then the person coming later from, just by miracle case.
I'm sure you've heard of people that say, oh, this one looks like my grandmother.
Yeah.
They will not say reincarnated mama Bitis, so that's what happens.
That's a good one. I mean, just some clarification on some of the issues. So while we're reading up for the show today, we saw that there are about a total of 32 human blood group systems. But however, there are two that are of utmost importance to we humans. So what are these two?
Okay, so like you said, there are several. Like the Kells, the Lutheran, the Duffy, they're all different types. But the ones we pay attention to the most are the ABO classification and the Rhesus system classification. So those are the two major ones that we tend to pay attention to.
Those other ones, don't they affect us in any way?
Okay, well, they do, but because they are rare, they're not commonly seen. People don't tend to talk about them often. But we've seen has the blood group and the rhesus factor of both parents, but the child still comes down what we call hemolytic anemia, meaning that the child's red blood cells were being lysed, were being destroyed. So in a case like that, you have to now look further. Okay, maybe there is something else. Maybe they not check the other blood group systems. It might be that, for example, maybe it's Kells now. The child maybe is Kells negative, or mother is Kells negative and child is Kells positive. In that kind of situation, it can happen that the hemolysis can happen in anemia.
Because of that. So in this part of the world, do we even check all that Kells? We don't have the facility to do that. I think it's in very extreme cases that they just have to go through those things. Okay, if you're just joining us, this is still Radio Maria 91.3 FM, the voice of truth. And the program still remains Healthier You, which airs every Tuesday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Today we've been talking about blood group and genotype compatibility with our guest in the studio, Dr. Paul Wandi, who is a friend, he's a medical doctor, he's a GP with the Federal Staff Hospital, Gwarinpa. We'll be going right on a short break, and when we'll come back, we'll continue our program. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Healthy You right on Radio Maria 91.3 FM, the voice of truth. If you're just joining us, we've been talking about blood group and genotype compatibility. And with us in the studio is a friend of the house. He's a medical doctor, a general practitioner who works in the Federal Staff Hospital, Barimpa. He's no other person than Dr. Paul Wiley. And before the break, we talked about the blood groups. He told us about the blood and the functions of the blood, that they help us to fight infection, and they help us to transport oxygen in the body to the various parts of our body, and that they also help us to transport other nutrients, which also emphasize the importance of nutrition in our bodies. And he also told us about the blood groups, and we know that there are about 32 blood group systems, but however, there are two of utmost importance to us, which is the ABU blood group and the resource factor. And that's all we've been talking about before now, and we're going to continue with Dr. Paul Wiley. So before the break, Doctor, you had told us about the two types of ABU blood group and the resource. So can you just tell us about the importance or relevance of these blood group systems?
Okay. All right. So when it comes to the blood group system, especially the ABO and the resource, one of the most important things it's used for is blood transfusion. Okay, so when people require blood, you always tell, okay, they want to group and cross-match blood. Now, the purpose of this is to avoid complications during blood transfusion. Okay, so if you give someone the wrong type of blood, or blood that is not compatible, what can possibly happen is that you might not start having what we call lumping, but now blocking the vessels, and it can be, it can be life-threatening actually. So, we are very careful when it comes to blood transfusion. It's very important to know the blood group of both the donor and the recipient. So,
it's very, very important.
Okay. So another place where it's important is in pregnancy. Now,
sorry, Dr. Paul.
Yeah, sure.
You see, when they ask for these informations, nobody knows when emergencies can come up. Okay, and so you go to get your license and your identification cards and all that, and they're trying to ask you this information. Like, I beg, what are we using all this for? It's just not just my name, but these things are very important. They're as important as the next of kin. Okay, because God forbid something happens on the way. When it's indicated there, they already know, okay, I'm this, I will just go immediately, rather than they'll start going over it again and all that. So it's always good for us to know these things so that when necessary, it can come in handy.
Hereditary mode of this blood group and the rhesus factor. Knowing your blood group and your husband's blood group prior to you getting married and having kids is very important, because if, for example, you are blood group, let me just cite an example now. The woman is blood group A, and the child or the husband is blood group B. Now, because of, and for example, the child in her womb is taking maybe the father's blood group. Now, because A and B are not, they both develop antibodies against each other. It can now cause what we call ABO incompatibility, and it can now start hemolysis, because the mother is, in this case, the dominant person.
Carrying the child. Is
so
directly connected to her.
It can start to damage the fetus, and it can now cause complications and possibly fetal death. The child might die in the womb. So those are some of the reasons why it's very important to know these things before you get married.
That's another thing now, fetal death, because a child dying in the womb can also be, especially in this part of the world where we're superstitious, it can be misinterpreted.
And all that. And I think a lot of pregnant women these days are they are being aware of this situation, and they tackle it from the onset, because I know, doctor, I think you would elaborate on that, because I know that these days when you start your antenatals and your blood group, they will ask you, okay, is there a difference with that of your spouse? And they will now look into it. I know the resource, also affects it. So please, doctor, can you elaborate on that? Is there any remedies, anything that is done to help in that regard?
Yes, especially when it comes to resource, there are things we can do to intervene, especially if the woman is has rhesus negative on her own blood, and the husband is positive, and the child being positive. Okay, so there's a medication we give it during pregnancy, and we give it.
Sorry, Doc, you said the child is positive. How do we know the child is positive at that time?
Okay, now because we are not sure.
Sure, yes.
Because we are not sure, we can't be sure. Although abroad they can check all these things.
All those things, of course, they just go right, just write it to the placenta and do all their sampling.
But here we don't really. So because we are not sure, we don't take the risk. So once the woman is negative and the husband is positive, we give there's a medication. It's popularly called Rogam. Most people know it as Rogam. Okay, so it's given to the woman during pregnancy and after pregnancy, regardless of the outcome of the pregnancy.
Okay.
So whether she miscarried or she delivered safely or it was a stillbirth, that medication is given. So the idea is that once you give them, if you're able to give that medication during pregnancy and following the pregnancy, the chances of the woman's next having that rhesus incompatibility reduces to about 0.1%. So there's a very good chance of having no issues during the subsequent pregnancy. So that's.
So Dr. Paul is telling us that because these days people are beginning to get scared. Hey, I'm negative, O negative, A negative. Where will I see O negative person and O negative that? All hope is not lost. You listening to us out there. You are O negative, you are O positive, you are you find a spouse. There's a man for you, or there's a woman for you. Because science has helped us out to say, okay, we have intervened in the matter, and okay, it's not about, see, don't go and start deceiving anybody now that our blood group is not compatible. Dr. Paul is telling us that compatible or not compatible, there's a way out. It's just for you to follow the proper clinical procedures, and your baby will be safe when it's being born.
So let's now talk about the ABO blood group system.
Yeah.
So what's the ABO blood group system all about?
Okay, so in the ABO blood group system, there's basically 4 blood groups within it: the A, the B, the AB, and the O. Now, I earlier mentioned a bit about it. So for blood group A, it means that the person has an antigen, a protein on the red blood cells that is A. Now, once the person has that A on the antigen on the blood cells, the person develops antibody B. And that antibody B is, the purpose of it is that once blood comes in, and he just notices that, okay, this one does not belong to us, he attacks immediately. So basically, so for the B,
the body's defense mechanism is something else. I think Army is learning when it comes to the body.
Because I mean, mind you defense.
I'm telling you, because the blood, the blood, even when he started in the beginning, how our white blood cells attack. Now, okay, we also have the blood grouping system where we have antigen and antibody clash. Okay, so the body is doing a lot of clash. When you are down with fever, like we always tell you, it's not only malaria. These things are born out of all this clash happening in the body. The immune system fighting up and down.
Exactly. So the B is similar. B has the B antigen on the red blood cell and antibody A. So now the AB means that it has both A and B on the blood cell.
They're the lucky ones.
They are the lucky ones. Yeah. So they have both A and B, so there are no antibodies.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter which one comes in, the body is fine. Now the O, those with the O, it means that they have none.
Okay.
They don't have any antigens, so they also don't have
any defense.
Antibodies. So, okay, no, sorry, they have antibody A and B. Okay. Sorry, for blood group O, they don't have any antigens.
Yeah.
So, but they have antibodies A and B. So usually here people will tell you, oh, once you are O, you can only get from O. Yeah. That's the reason why they say that. So they can only get from O because of if you bring A or B, the body fights it off. Basically.
So the idea of the universal donor and the universal recipient, where does it come in?
Yes, okay, I'll come to that. I'll come to that. So now generally amongst I think blacks, even whites, so the blood group O is the most common, followed by A, followed by B. AB is the least common. Yeah. Most is about 4% of people that have AB. Okay, so that's generally about the ABO blood classification. Yeah. So about your question about the whole universal donor and okay, I might have to bring rhesus into this now because when you involve, because the ABO and the Rhesus system, we both kind of combine it.
By combining. So maybe we'll just cover
Get a
both.
good knowledge,
Yes,
good knowledge
before we
of
now
both.
combine
Yes.
both.
So in the, but while we're at it, just know that our phone lines are open, and the number again is 081 084 475 18. I'll take that again. 081 084 475 18. We'll be expecting your calls, your text messages, and your SMS, and your phone, on your WhatsApp messages rather. So, Doctor, let's now talk about the resource factor, and also I think it's of particular importance of how it's in pregnancy, because I think that's where it finds most.
So, okay, so it's similar, like with the ABO, the blood group system. The antigen is also on the surface of the red blood cell. Now, with Rhesus, there are actually like 49 different types of antigens, but they are basically just looked at in terms of positive and negative. So if it's present, it's positive. If the antigen is not there, it's negative. So that's the way we look at it. It's just a simplified form of looking at it. So now, once the antigen is present, like I said, positive. So once it's negative, and once it's not there, it's negative. So once it's negative, it means the person has antibodies against Rhesus factor that is positive. I know that you're following me. So once the person is negative, the antibodies. So once you can't give the person any blood that has Rhesus positive in it, basically. So now, so once you now combine both of them now, both the ABO and the Rhesus factor, it means that there are 8 possibilities for everybody, basically. So there's O negative and positive, AB negative, positive, like same with A and B. Okay. So now, back to your question about the universal donor and recipients. Now, like we said, people that are blood group O can give to everybody. Yeah? Because they don't, those people don't have, people with blood group O don't have any antigens on them. You understand? They only have antibodies to A and B. So because they don't have those antigens, anybody that is A, B, or AB can receive O. But those that are O can only receive from themselves. Now, the blood group that is universal donor is O negative.
Okay.
You understand? O negative is, you understand? Because we have to combine both factors in here now. O being no antigen on the surface, one, then the Rhesus factor is also.
Sorry, we have a caller.
All right, that's fine.
Good evening, welcome to Radio Maria 91.3 FM, the voice of truth. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Thank you very much, my sister. Good evening, Mr. Ekene. Good evening, Doctor. Good
evening, sir.
Good evening.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Once again, my name is Manuel Oyankachukwu. I want to thank the management and team of Radio Maria to bringing in an informative and very tangible and important topic daily to be discussed.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for listening and following us up. Please keep listening and following us up.
Yeah, thank you very much. I don't know if this, my question now has been discussed or maybe yet to be discussed.
Okay.
Okay.
Like, for example, a man or a woman, a man and a woman that has, for example, a man is AS and a woman is AS. Are they compatible for marriage?
Okay, is that your question?
I'm coming again. And
okay.
if they virtually married, is there any problem maybe they will encounter in the future? That's what I want to find out.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Emmanuel, for calling in.
Yes.
Okay. We're here to treat this and just stay tuned to the program and we'll get to your part of the question. We'll get your answers. Please be patient with us, okay? Thank you for calling in.
All right. So we're talking about universal donors and recipients. So, like I said, the O negative are the universal donors because they don't have any of the antigens of both the ABO and the Rhesus factor on them, so they're able to give people. But the universal recipients are people with AB. So they are the ones that can easily get from anybody. They can get from A, they can get from B, they can get from O. So ABs are they're those that enjoy the most.
They're enjoying themselves, like they're just taking.
Stephanie, you're so happy about this A.
I'm not AB. I'm a general, I dey give. I'm O positive, I give up.
Okay.
Like we are generous people. They classify us as very generous people, doctor. You know what I'm saying? Because we just give. You can't even take. We just always give.
Okay.
You know, so thank you, doctor.
You were saying, doctor, okay?
So in relation to pregnancy, we already touched on it a bit. So once the mother has the rhesus negative in her own blood and the husband is positive, so there's a risk of that incompatibility if the child is positive. But like I said, in this part of the world, since we don't check or try to prevent issues from developing by giving the mother those injections to try and prevent issues from happening.
You know, we're saying it again that please know your blood group and know that of your spouse or the person you're going to get married to, so that at the end of the day, you don't just sit at home and just feel that it's a pregnancy and it's just going to go well. Okay, yes, it's going to go well. We presume, we pray, but you have to do your own part too. Okay, so if there is a negative and a positive, make sure you remind your doctors and you tell them so that they can do the needful and save the upcoming generation.
So, Dr. US, I think earlier on, before now, you had said that the ROGAM that they give during and after, and that's to guide against whatever effects it could have on the next pregnancy. So what are some of these effects it can have on the next pregnancy?
Okay, the major effect is anemia. Basically, the child's blood getting destroyed. Basically, that's what we try to avoid. Now, it might, if you're lucky enough, it might be mild, but sometimes it can be quite severe, and it could develop what a condition we call kernicterus, where it affects the vessels in the brain too. So the child comes down with very severe form of jaundice, and if it's so severe that it affects the brain, then you might have some developmental issues.
Yeah, it becomes an issue.
Sure.
Okay, so I think now we can go to the
hotspot.
the genotype.
The genotype, the hotspot.
So when we say genotype, what do we mean, and are there different types of genotypes or what?
Okay, so genotype generally just means the genetic composition of an individual. So it's what makes you you. Why you are unique in that form, basically. So now with blood has its own, because each part of the body, all the cells have their own genetic makeup. So but with blood, this hemoglobin, basically that's the red blood cell, has its own genotype. So now the general ones, the ones we basically know majorly are 4. The AA, the AS, the SS, and the SC. Okay? There's still there's even CC. CC too, but I just want to try and avoid complicating it for people. So let's just focus on AA, AS, and SS.
The one we know generally in this part of the world. But even in this part of the world, let's not even, we still have the C and the S's, you know. Yes, and people are not able to find that out, and they think it's something else and it becomes an issue. So it's good for us to point it out that we still have these other genotypes, the SC and the C.
Yeah, so based on this now, so these genotypes are generally inherited too from the parents. Now it's inherited in a, okay, I don't want to use the word autosomal recessive. That's the term.
Okay, you don't want to come from
that's the term. But okay, so let me just start with, so now people with the genotype AA, they are generally they're not carriers. So their genotype
AA, searching for an AA, we are here.
So they don't have the sickle cell traits, basically. That's what it means. Now, those that are AS have the traits. They don't have the disease. They just have the traits. That's the S in it. Now, those that are SS have the disease. Okay? Same with those that are SC. They also have the disease.
Okay.
Okay? So that's basically just a general overview of each of them. Now, in terms of how when you want to marry and the form of inheritance. Okay, so we usually advise once one of the partners is AA, you are good. That's why let them just put it in a very simple way that people can understand. Once one of you is AA, you are fine.
Yeah.
You can marry. Your partner can have any of the other ones, and it's not much of a problem. But the issue now comes in when one of you, or sorry, when both of you are either carriers or have the traits. That's what I mean, or one of you has the disease. Okay, that's where.
Look, let's reiterate that that's not to say that we're discriminating against those who have the disease. We're just trying to make some explanations so that people get to understand what exactly we're talking about. Okay, so it's not that we're discriminating against anybody who has any particular genotypes whatsoever.
Okay, so yeah, no, it's nobody's fault because, like I said, it's inheritance. It's inherited, so it's not fault. Nobody decides to have it. So that's the point. So once you have either the trait, whether you're a carrier or you have the disease, then it's usually advised that you don't intermarry due to the risks that the fetus can have.
I think it's Mr. Manuel's question.
Yes, I was about to go there. I hope
so
you're
now,
listening to us.
He said his question was a man being AS and the wife being AS. Now, let me just use
I know we don't have a board where you can cross it for people
to
see.
let me color code it now. So
I remind them of their primary biology.
So basically now, let's say you have 4 stones. 1 stone is white in color, 2 are black, and 1 is red. Let me just explain it that way. The white stone is for AA. The 2 black stones are AS, and the red one is SS. So now, and they put it in a bag. You can't see inside the bag. So you're just supposed to just dip your hand and just pick 1 stone. So every time the woman gets pregnant, you are basically dipping your hand into that bag. So the chances of you picking a red stone is 1 in 4. You understand the ratio. So 1 in 4 chance of you picking. So we are not saying it's not possible for you to pick a white stone every time. It's very possible. We've seen cases like that, where both partners were both AS and all their children were all AA. It's very possible. But the reason why we say we don't advise it is because you can't determine yourself what would happen.
The future.
Exactly. So we say don't take that risk. You understand? Don't take that risk of trying to
delve into it and let's just try.
Every time.
So, because at the end of the day, it's the upcoming offspring that will suffer.
And emotionally and everything. Pain. So it's better you don't, and it's very difficult to break it off.
Before you start, find out.
So I tell people, see, after I ask you, after I tell me your name.
Okay, now.
That's the next thing I'm asking you. You understand? Especially, this is for people. If you are AA, I can understand why you are carefree about it.
Yes.
You don't bother yourself about it. Yeah, but once you are AS or SS,
put it in your CV.
it should be at the forefront of any discussion you are having. Because it shouldn't be. Like I said, there's no discrimination about it. It's not. You didn't decide it for yourself. You were born with it.
Situation.
So you should always
put it into cognizance.
In any relationship you go into, so that it doesn't get to the stage where you now start saying, okay, I'm going to find it very difficult to break this off. We've gone too far. And all that. So
we're not saying that miracles don't happen, though. But
sure.
We are saying this is science. And let's be clear. Science is science. It's black and white. This can happen, that can happen. Probability of 1 is to 4. This, that is possible. How do you know that you're picking, you're going to be the A that you're picking at that point? How do you know you're not God, you're not science, you're not the one who can prove what you're going to take? So that's why we are saying and hammering on it that it's very, very important to be careful.
And I think just for sake of clarity, when doctors the other ones each time those 4 options are
open again. don't know, you know, they just have this, the way we drew it that time.
Yes.
A cross S cross S. So they just feel that, okay, when you have 4 children, as that A cross,
exactly.
1 cross, okay, I've had this SS, okay, the next 3 will be A, the other one will be AS, okay? It's usually not judged by that way.
When we come back, we'll wrap up with the show. We are already fast spent, and when we anyway.
Welcome back, our beautiful listeners, to Radio Maria 91.3 FM, the voice of truth, and the program again is Healthier You, which airs every Tuesday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Today we've been talking about blood group and genotype compatibility. It's been a very interesting topic of discussion, okay, considering our society today, considering marriages, relationships, and the issues we've had concerning this matter. That is why we decided to bring it to you. In our studio today, we've had Dr. Paul Wandi, a GP with the Federal Staff Hospital, Gwarimpa. He has really, delved right deep, the scientific aspect, the medical aspect, and the life aspect of this blood group system, the blood group ABO system, the resource factor, D negative and positive. Okay, so he's just been talking about how this affects the fetus, the fetus, the unborn child in the womb and in pregnancy. Okay, so that is what we've been talking about, how it's compatible. And just before the break, he was putting us through the genotype system, how he actually explained it very well, so because this is a radio station, we don't have a board to draw here. So he told us how you throw one white ball, one white stone, 2 black stones, and 1 red stone. And there's a possibility that anytime you put your hand, you don't know which stone you're going to pick. Okay, so he represented those other genotypes, and he said anytime you pick it there, you can take anything. So you don't know which is going to be. And it's not that because you have chosen A as the first one, the second one must be, you don't know which, because they will throw the 4 back. It's not that when you remove the A, it's now 3 that will remain. You will have the 4 placed back again for you to pick. Now, the question is, how sure are you that you are going to pick the right one? You think is the right one. The same reason we are back to this compatibility, why we brought this to you, to let you know that you can actually be careful, you can actually stop this. See, okay, if you walk into the hospital and you see children with crisis, you will weep. We have a caller. Please, let's take your call. Good evening. What's your name and where are you calling from? Thank you for joining into Radio Maria and 1.3.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm calling from Nube.
Sorry, we didn't
Sorry,
get the
didn't
name.
your name.
My name is Chiamaka, calling from Nube.
Okay, Chiamaka from Nube. Can we hear your question, please? And thanks for calling in.
Okay, now please, I want to ask you, somebody with AA, can the person get sick? Like, can the person have headache or malaria? Is it that the person is totally free from sickness?
Okay. Thank you for your question, Chiamaka. Doctor,
Okay,
you heard
so-
Chiamaka's question. Somebody with AA, we have been hyping AA people like,
okay,
how about, is it that they don't even have what others have?
please, okay. AA people get sick too. They all get sick.
This AA hype is too much.
We all
I'm sure
get
the
sick.
AAs, wherever they are, and they'll be like,
Eh?
Uganda now.
No, well,
Yes, AA.
yes, well, in terms of genotype,
Chiamaka, thank you, Jerry, for that question.
well, in terms of genotype, that's what we are saying. They are, I don't want to use the word the safest, but
They're in the safe zone.
the safe zone basically. So they can marry anybody with any other type of genotype. So that's only what we are saying. But in terms of whether they can fall sick, have malaria, or
All that.
have cough, have catarrh, stuff like that, they can also come down with things like
And
that.
I think it's even said that the AA genotype is very much predisposed to
Malaria, we hear that.
yes, unlike the AS. So,
Yeah. See, no, there have been discrepancies on that. People say it is, some people say it isn't.
But there's no concrete research.
There's no
to that
concrete research
effect.
to that effect. That,
And if I must buttress what Dr. Paul said, the thing is, this genotype system, okay, when we're talking about AA, AS, SS, we're talking about the sickle cell. Sickle cell, that's the disease we're talking about. Okay, so those who have the SS, they are prone to the disease. They are carriers of this disease. Okay, somebody who has AA isn't. So when we're talking about the genotype, we're specifically talking about a particular disease, right?
Yes.
Doctor, if I'm
Yes,
right.
yes.
We're specifically talking about a particular disease, which is the sickle cell anemia. Not saying that that same patient who has an SS cannot also have malaria
Oh, definitely.
or cannot also have typhoid
other ailments.
or other ailments, but we're particularly talking about the sickle cell disease.
Yeah.
So, Doctor, just on a very quick note,
Yeah.
and for the sake of representation, can you just throw a little light on the others, like the SC and the C?
Okay, so people that are SC also have the sickle cell disease. It's just that they have what we call hemoglobin C. Okay, they also come down with, they also have crisis. They also have anemia and all that. It's the same thing. It's just that they have the hemoglobin C, which is also irregularly shaped. Because the idea, when they say sickle cell, it means that the hemoglobin is shaped in a particular way. Okay, but those that have
Like this being
yeah,
shaped.
so but when it's sickle, I don't know whether if you know what a sickle looks
Sickle,
like.
yeah, the farm tool.
Yeah, farm tool sickle.
Yeah.
So that's the way it appears. So because it's that way, it's unable to move. At a point it gets stuck, so they can't pass again. And this tends to happen around joints. So that's why you see that when the people who are SS come down with this crisis, you see they mostly complain of joint pain.
Joint pain.
So you understand? So
And
that's
you know,
that.
this joint pains leads to a lot of drug abuse.
Yes.
You know.
So, so that's it. So the SC is similar. The C2 is also irregularly shaped. It's not like the sickle shape, but it's also irregularly shaped too. So it's also the same problem that they also
face. So
face.
what you're saying, Doc, is that the SS, the SC, and the C, they have similar traits. And okay, so even when you go to the outside world where they are able to say, okay, somebody is a C, you also should know that they also fall into this group
Yes.
of carriers. Okay, so that you be careful anywhere you find yourself. Okay, so to wrap up our program today, we have been talking about the blood group and the genotype compatibility. Okay, and we said that the general donors, which is the universal donors, are the O's, and O negative to be very specific. You know, and then the reason why we actually want to know all this is so that you don't bring in another blood, and then the person's antibodies begin to fight, and then that can lead to death. Okay, so at every point, we urge you, our listeners, know your blood group, have it handy, that anytime you're asked, what's your blood group, you'll be able to do so. And as such, we also encourage people who can donate to help to donate, because there are people out there dying because of blood. And we're also begging our hospitals, please, when people donate, give it to people, let them get it also. They don't have to pay very high, especially those who cannot afford it. Okay, so, and then we also talk about the genotype system, the AA, the AS, and the SS. Okay, and then with Dr. Paul said the AAs, they are in the safe zone. The AS, they are like, they just have the traits, you know, and the SS, they have the disease. Okay, so when choosing a partner, that should actually guide you. It doesn't mean that anytime you do this, you're crossing, okay, one cross is out, the next cross can be, we don't know which will be which. So we're just saying, now why we brought this program to you is, before you start a relationship, know your genotype. Before you start a relationship, know your blood group. Then if the both of you decide to continue like that, Oyo is your case. And yeah, that's the truth. But also know that even when you say it's my life, I want to live it my own way, you know that just live your life and don't come and bring somebody into the life that will suffer.
And it's always more than just love.
Yes,
sometimes
please.
you have to think.
It's beyond love.
The love should even help you to know some criteria and be able to stick by it. Okay, so that's what we've been discussing today. And yes, people who have AA can be sick with other things. So they can have malaria, they can have typhoid. Their genotype does not stop
exonerate you from any disease.
So like we always say, healthier you, make sure you keep listening to Healthier You, and you keep getting the tips on how to be healthy so that you can stay healthy.
Okay, just as Stephanie said, know your blood group, know your genotype. And that's all we have for you on the show today. Thank you all to our beautiful listeners and to our callers too. And for those that sent in messages, we thank you so much for always tuning in with us. Don't forget that Healthier You airs every Tuesday by 4 p.m. right here on Radio Maria 91.3 FM, the voice of truth. Do stay tuned to Radio Maria 91.3 FM. Child protection will be coming your way with Mary Angela in the next 5 minutes. Stay tuned.
Okay, like we always say, if you see anybody on the way, if you can't help them, just leave them happy. That's what you can do for them. Okay, in any field you find yourself, you're an engineer, you're a lawyer, you're a doctor, make sure you impact on people's life, and that's what we're going to leave you with today. Be the joy that someone sees. Dr. Paul, any final words for us?
Just, okay, it's important, people, so if you've not checked your genotype and blood group today, please find the nearest hospital and get it done.
Check, oh, please, while we're shouting it today, now check, go and check.
All right, do have a one lovely evening.
Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.